Welcome to USMLE Sarthi. We are committed to empowering IMGs. We're excited to guide you on your match journey. Don't forget to click subscribe and turn on notifications so you can get notified whenever we add new content. Also, follow us on Instagram and Twitter for the latest tips and tricks regarding everything USMLE. Now, let's dive into it.
Hello, Dr. Khera. Welcome to our podcast today. Thank you so much for doing this. It is really important to know you for all the students who are, looking to join Sarthi or are in Sarthi. They would love to know more about you, and I'm sure they have all had a conversation with you, but we don't know you like we will know you from today. So thank you so much for being here.
I appreciate it, Aditya. I mean, you are one of the most committed and passionate IMGs. So, always there to talk with you.
Thank you so much for your kind words. So I really want to know how this USMLE Sarthi journey started for you. Like, how did you come to know about USMLE?
So, I think we have to go back in history, and I'm obviously much older than you or your peers. So, I came to this country in 2000. I came here as a student at Carnegie Mellon. I did my master's, I did my MBA, did research, and then I started teaching at Carnegie Mellon. And I was also promoted to be program director of a healthcare analytics course. That's where I got in touch with a lot of IMGs who had come for MPH or for healthcare analytics. These were the IMGs who were, even in those days, were not able to directly get into the residency system. So that's how I started interacting with them. I understood the challenges. I understood what was lacking in those days, 25 years ago in an IMG profile. And that got me interested because my passion was always to help others, especially foreigners, foreign-born students, to get into the system, to get into the US education system. So that's how the idea of Sarthi started. And just taking it a bit personally, my wife is a former IMG. My both sisters are former IMGs.
Okay.
And, so that's how it started. Obviously, I researched quite a bit. I was always passionate about understanding the system and seeing how the system can be understood, and then hopefully why can IMGs not do it, right? So that was always the problem. So that's how I got started about 25 years ago. Then I took a break. I went into industry. I was a consultant for IBM, but in education sector. So I worked with a lot of universities, understanding their processes, how they enroll students, both at undergraduate level, at master's level. Some of them had residency programs, so I got a fair bit of insight into that. And then in 2015, we started it full time. That's when we really started.
Okay, so it was 2015 when you started full time. So it's been like 9 years.
Full time was 2015, but like I said, unofficially and just helping others, I've been doing it since 2002, I would say. And so many of my first students actually were from Maulana Azad, BJ Medical, UCMS, Lady Harding. I spent 4 years of my life in Gujarat. So Ahmedabad, Bhavnagar, Mehsana, North Gujarat, Jamnagar. So I knew a lot of students who needed help. So, it all came together in 2015.
I mean, that is amazing. And I see this that as you were always into education and you wanted to support your students, and that is how, I mean, it was not a grand plan that you had in mind, but I think you've just fallen into it. And that is why you're doing such a great job at expanding it. And it has expanded rapidly over the past few years that I've seen. But now I also wanted to ask you that, like, how have things changed? Like, you've seen students back in 2000s and now it's 2025. It's like quarter of a century. Like, how has the system changed in all these years?
So that's a very good question, right? Because I have seen, you may not even remember, but step one in CK used to be a 2-digit score. So I'm coming from that part of the world, right? So in early 2000, kind of 1999, it used to be a 2-digit score. So I've seen those changes, 2-digit to 3-digit, and now step one is pass fail. 2-3 years ago it went pass fail. There used to be an exam called CS Clinical Skills that was only in the US, 6 centers. That has gone out after COVID. So there have been changes to the system. So I would say there are changes to the system uh, over the years. Then there are changes in the requirements of the program. So, for example, 20 years ago, rotations was not a requirement. If you did maybe 1 month of observership, even if you didn't do observership, people would match. But now rotations are required. So the cost at some level for a student has also gone up. They are expected to do rotations, research, but then most of the interviews are now online, right? So that cost has gone down. There is a lot more information now. Students are very well connected. They are aware. So that is a change that has happened. But on the other hand, there is a lot of fake news and a lot of information that is not reliable. That has also been happening. So I think overall the system is still very robust. The USMLE system is still very fair. I would say that. I know a lot of students may not agree to it. It's a fair system. They keep making changes. I think we all have to understand one thing, that the system is primarily made for American graduates. So they always get the first shot. The specialties that they are trying will always be in high demand. And then comes the IMG. So that some of those things have not changed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is definitely. I can see the change happening, especially with internet not being prevalent. I'm sure there would have been lack of information, lack of resources, even for people to study back home for all these steps. I saw that a lot of people after coming to this country would begin their journey. And I've heard it from my seniors that they didn't have any resources to read back then.
That is correct. Resources were, I remember, like I was saying, in 2099, students would go to a Kaplan center in India, and they would play there used to be tapes, the video tapes. They would play the tapes of the classes in a Kaplan center. So from that, we went to online classes, and now everything is digital. So there have been a lot of changes. The other change has been in the choice of specialties. Surgery and some of those specialties have now opened up for IMGs. That's a big change. Every 2 to 3 years, there is a change in how the American graduates and how they all behave. So neurology, as you are in neurology. Neurology 5 to 6 years ago was supposed to be one of the easiest specialties, and now it's one of the hardest. Maybe it's harder even than IM to match. Pathology once upon a time was supposed to be very easy. It has become a lot more competitive. So then there are these changes that happen every 2 to 3 years in the specialty also.
I'm sure there are different patterns. I think there are different patterns now back home as well with surgeries. Cardiothoracic surgery used to hit the top, but now people want more easier lifestyle, and lifestyle has become a big factor into this. And I think those changes are happening, and with that students are evolving and things. But actually this is positive from your side that you are bringing this up, that now people can match into surgery. There is a chance for IMGs, and I think all IMGs always used to have a chance in a way, but they always, there is a discouragement from people that no, you should not even think about it, that is not what we get. Like, what do you have to say about it, that how can someone who wants their dream branch, like realistically, we don't want to pump them up, but realistically, if they are willing to spend the time, money and energy for it, do you think it is possible for anyone to get into any field in the US?
That's a very good question. And like you said, there are a lot of parameters that go in. So there is a reality, then there is a profile, and then there is life, right? Zindagi, life happens. So, for example, not everyone has unlimited time, not everyone has unlimited resources. However, I will give you examples. I mean, I've had students match in urology, I've had students match in categorical general surgery, I've had student match in OBGYN, right? And many of them actually need visa, so J1 and all of that. But the important thing here is the commitment of time. Do you have time to do research in the US, maybe unpaid for 2 years, right? Do you actually have time to, do very well in CK and very well in maybe step 3 publications, and then with a focus that you have to understand there may be a time when after 2 years you may want to give up, ab nahi ho raha, I'm not able to do it. If you can take that level of risk but you continue, I think it is possible. It is definitely possible, but remember, people on visa have other things going on. So if you come to surgery and other specialty, what I have found is people with home country residency actually have a leg up. They've already done a surgery training.
Yes.
It is much easier for them to match, but it does not mean that people without home country residence. In fact, many of my students this year are going into surgery. One of them is an OBGYN visa seeking, actually I think from Gujarat, and she has 6 to 7 interviews in OBGYN. So we'll see how it goes, but it is possible. It is possible even if you are an older graduate. So I've had 20-year YOG visa seeking match, right? So things are possible in the system. You just have to know the system. You have to follow the right information. And like I've been very impressed with you, Aditya. It's the commitment and passion and the confidence. A lot of IMGs don't have the confidence. They feel system is biased against them. They feel system is not for them. And like you said, they may not get the right kind of mentorship, maybe from seniors, maybe from others. So I think as in USMLE, as in life, we have to get out of the negative thoughts, and we should focus and leave the rest to, whosoever you believe in up there, I think.
I think that's the perfect way to look at things, because it is really crucial to and it is difficult, as you said, that when you are doing a research without any fruits, and it takes 1 year, 2 years, 3 years pass by, everyone, all your friends are going ahead in your life and you are still waiting for it. I think it becomes difficult. But now that is the thing, that either the student lacks the will to get into the same field, or they want an easier choice. But maybe that's what is discouraging that.
I have seen a lot of students, maybe more than 10,000 in the last 15 years. There is something called reality of life. So, yes, a lot of students have no constraints, but others have families, right? Families, kids, all those things are also a factor. So sometimes a person has to be very, very realistic. So you may want surgery or OBGYN, but then life happens and so those things happen. But then there are other pathways. A lot of my students actually say after family medicine residency, they have gone into some level of OBGYN fellowship and all of that. So there are ways and means to get to your goal. It may not be direct.
That is definitely there. And there are a few people who have also matched into residencies, like they do 1 or 2 years of IM and they keep looking for other residencies, and they jump into the field that they like by making the connection over there. So in a way, they are not wasting the time.
All that is right. वो सब ठीक है, and but then again, you have to have that level of time and commitment. So can you spend 2 years in IM and then maybe another 4 years in surgery? I know students IMGs in neurosurgery, those kind of things. Neurosurgery is 7 years, right? 7 years plus maybe you do 2 years of research, you're talking 9 years. NOSAL, is a big deal. So I think every person needs to figure out his or her own path.
That is fair. And the priority, to be honest, that what is important at this point. I think that is the best way to look at it, as you mentioned. And but hopefully everyone has a great answer for this question, that it is possible provided that you are willing to give the time and the commitment, because those are very crucial.
Yes, it is possible. There are ways and means, like I said, dermatology, ortho, OBGYN, everything is possible. The number is obviously low because you are going into the most competitive ones, but the doors are starting to open. So I'm very happy for IMGs.
It is a great time to be an IMG. I think there is always a fear which is said that with years it is going to get more and more difficult for IMGs, but I think it is getting more and more easier.
I think if you look at the data, right, every conversation should be data driven. So data, like if you go back 2000, 2099, that kind of a time frame, IMG match rate was about 45% visa seeking. Now visa seeking IMG match rate is more than 53, 54%. So in a percentage terms, it has become much more easier, I would say. However, the number of IMGs applying has also gone up, information has gone up, and the number of spots doesn't seem to have kept pace, right? Yes. So there is some IMGs feel it is becoming very hard, and I would say it just depends. It's not that the system has changed and gone anti-IMG. I mean, there are, obviously we all know, a lot of community programs can only run with IMGs. So it's not that they don't need IMGs here. Primary care, especially the 5 or 6 specialties, are only dependent on IMGs. So they need IMGs, and the IMG match rate has been increasing. But yes, the competition, the number of IMGs, and frankly, the IMGs are much more prepared. I mean, now they know they need to do research, they know they need to do USCE, high score in CK, maybe even step 3. So if you are an IMG who has not done all of this, then yes, you are at a disadvantage.
Yeah, definitely. That is true. But what do you think is the best way to do all these things? Like, there is also a lot of things going on with, consultancies, and people don't know who to trust with everyone coming out there. There is a lot of people doing individually. So what are your thoughts about it?
I believe, first, there are different types of students, different profiles. There are many students who start understanding the system, whether it's USMLE or NEET PG or UK and all, maybe in second year of their MBBS, right? So always being able to get that information, it's always a good idea. Always try to seek information as early as possible, right? Second, third year, so that you know what the pros and cons are for each system at the system level, USMLE and others. Second, always look for, if you're talking of consulting or your seniors and all, always get information. There's nothing wrong. Just see that where you can get more transparent information, all of that. Seniors are always a good resource. Your own relatives are always a good resource. But after that, you have to plan yourself, right? So this is a long journey. USMLE especially is a long journey. Could take up to 2 years, with all exams, with all USCE. Information is available, I think, but you have to dig deeper. You have to spend time, to see who's giving you the most reliable information. So that's how they have to do it. I think making a timeline is important. Now, of course, there are many of the students who start on this journey after they graduate. So that's also possible. It just makes it a bit harder.
Yeah, That is fair. But also regarding these things, now there is this question of people think that with IMGs are in a very vulnerable position. People are trying to get money out of them, and they always feel that consultancies and all these people who are asking for money are after them, and they feel that they are in a vulnerable situation. What are your thoughts about that?
This is something I always tell my team and others that I work with, that number one, we have to understand the IMG issues and challenges. So they have a right to think that people are there to scam, and of course a lot of this happens. But IMGs also have to understand that there are organizations, there are people who are genuinely trying to help, right? So, but to run an organization, then it takes, resources, it takes effort, it takes a team. So, for example, it's not that Sarthi cannot give free advice, information, help. Yes, but then when I bring in my panel, they can be attendings, fellows, program directors. When we have to have a system in place to process all that costs money, right? So yes, it is very important for all organizations and people like me. I mean, I always read feedback. I always, there are good feedback, there are bad feedback, and I tell my team to look at it and see how we can help. Frankly, there are organizations where internally may be issues. So I get a lot of feedback that we are slow. And I take that, right? Sometimes over the weekend, my team is not available. Sometimes they may have other challenges in understanding what an IMG wants. So there may be back and forth. So sometimes, yes, genuinely we are slow. Sometimes the IMGs may have unrealistic expectation. In this rotation, I will get A, B, C, and D. Maybe not, right? For that amount of price or money. So you always have to see each service has a price and what you get out of it. So there are issues on both sides, but I understand, and this is where I think it helps. I come from India, and I understand those issues. Believe me, it's not that all organizations are out to scam IMGs, right? That's not the fact. But yes, do your due diligence, and especially I can only talk about Sarthi, right? If there is any issue, they can directly reach out to me. My email, pawankhera at USMLESarthi.com. Go to the website, tell them you want to talk to me, or there are various ways to reach me. So we'll take care of it. But yes, I can understand there is a big perception that IMGs are vulnerable. But I think you all need to stand for your rights.
That is 100% true on your level, that there is money required. But now this, as a physician also, this is a very dilemma. This is a big dilemma that I think all physicians face. That you want to help someone, but now people's idea is that they should not expect money from you for helping someone. This is the physician's dilemma as well. And we also as physicians sometimes feel guilty that if taking the money is the right thing to do, or should we just help from what we have gathered. But then when we think about our lives, then who will give us the money? That's the problem. How will we get it?
This is the challenge in life, right? Ghoda ghas se dosti karega to khayega kya, right? That kind of a thing. No, it's we all have worked hard. You have worked hard. The physicians in America, the AMGs have worked hard. They have a loan of $1 million, $500,000. Even IMGs coming here, end up spending a lot of money. And even if they don't use consulting, they still spend a lot of money. They have gone through a lot of hard work, 3 years, 6 years. In God-forsaken communities doing waiver jobs. So they have done a lot of hard work. So now when someone comes and says, give me this service for free, I think there are challenges, and we all have to understand that each service has a price. Now you can say good or bad, even for water, right? When you get water in your home or electricity, you pay something. So we as IMGs also have to understand that at some level, each service comes at a price. People will be willing to help for free, yes, but then how many can they help for free, and how much can they help for free?
That is fair. And it is really difficult. It is a big dilemma question, but as you said that like घोड़ा घास से दोस्ती करेगा तो खाएगा क्या, पर I mean, it's still a tough thing for me. But how have you grown? Like you have run this organization for these years. I want to ask you that how did you grow? Like was this a dilemma for you at some point? Like your prices have also gone up. Like to be fair, and like how did you have that in you that no, this is what I am charging and this is what I deserve to have, and this is what the organization needs, and this is how I would be able to help more people. So how did you evolve in this journey?
We have not increased our prices for the last 3 years. So just so that you know, 3 saal se for 3 years, the prices are the same. So, but now
Okay.
coming
No,
to
sir, I was not saying that price in the last 3 years. I'm saying that prices when you first when it was your first day and today, there might be an increase, right?
of course. So yes. So isme what we have to look at is the following, right? Again, Sarthi is an organization and it helps IMGs, but it connects, fellows, physicians, residents, and they all have to be paid, number one. So at some level, the cost has also gone up, right? Inflation has gone up. So what we have tried and rotations. So for example, when we send students for rotations, the physicians, they have increased their prices. So it is not in isolation. We have to look at the entire ecosystem, right? So that's one. So, but what we try generally, and this is a big dilemma, believe me, it is a big dilemma. And therefore, I am very, very conscious of the price increase and all that. That's why we've tried our best not to increase the price, like I said, for the past 3 years or so. So the challenge here then comes that we then try to offer services at different price points. So maybe, not everyone needs platinum or gold. So maybe you need you can be okay with a lower level of service, but then at a lower price. So the challenge for me always is how to give the most within the price range. Because frankly, if someone is like talking about our plan, bronze plan, someone is coming into bronze plan, but then I cannot offer the services in the platinum plan. So what we try to do is the core services, the bare minimum we offer in every plan, and then you can add on. But I agree with your challenge that pricing is always a big thing.
But I think you are doing a fair job at managing everything. It is not that extremely priced as well. And I also look at it in a way that it is an investment for a future, for a brighter future. But it also doesn't guarantee that, like, if I'm paying the money for a consultancy, that means that I am guaranteed matching. Like, I have to work for it. Yeah, that is also one misconception.
Yes, so I want to take it in two ways. So one is, at least at Sarthi, what we do each year, we invest and we bring out a lot of free resources. So for example, it's not only the YouTube videos and blogs, there are a lot of other ways which we provide free information to the IMG. So, but that also, investment. So right now, for example, my team is working on AI enabled help. So we will use some AI tools which will make freely available to IMGs who don't have resources to pay, but they still want information. So some of those things always need investment. But yes, to your second point, All IMGs, whether they pay a consulting company or they don't pay, it is your career, right? So you still have to work hard. Anyone can only guide you. So, Sarthi, as the name recommends, means a guide, as you probably know. But guide cannot do I mean, you have to go into the interview, right? You can take a horse to the pond, but the horse has to drink the water,
That is fair.
right? So as long as that is clear, I think there'll be good outcomes for IMGs.
I also had this perspective about any consultancy or education, whatever institute we are looking at. Like, if I went to a school, like, it is up to me that what benefit I got out of it. And there will be people who say good things about the same school and bad things about the same school. It's the same with the college. That what did you get out of it? I think anywhere you make or pay the money, I think it is about how you utilize that opportunity. Like this, I will give you a really nice example that by being in Sarthi, the main advantage I got was this exposure to speaking to people, which you gave me. Actually, that was my first time I came on camera, spoke in front of people, and now I got the confidence that I will be able to help at a bigger scale on by myself. And that was a big thing and a big change in my life, which has come through Sarthi directly, indirectly, but it has come.
Yes, and you're right. In the end, whether it is the USMLE system or anything else, as in life, everyone should be proactive. Everyone should take initiative. I think initiative, proactiveness, and confidence in your own self. These are the three things that everyone, whether it's USMLE or otherwise, is something I tell everyone to do.
No, that is definitely true and for sure. Now, I have this question that you've been doing this for a long time now. What motivates you to keep doing this?
Yeah, so the motivation, it's very not easy to explain, but my motivation is when I see a student who may have gaps, who may have red flags, may have been going through a very bad phase in life, personally, professionally, and when that student is successful, when that student matches, that is the true give back. When a student, now different students have different goals, right? When a student is successful and when they come back and say, yes, we did it, yes, I was able to achieve my goal. I think that is the biggest motivation at this stage of my life. It's nothing else. It is the ability to see that when I started Sarthi with the goal of helping IMGs get in the system, and now when you see that dream being realized, thousands and thousands of IMGs, like I said, old YOG and gaps and red flags, but eventually getting successful, I think that is the motivation that keeps me going.
No, I definitely get what you're trying to say, that how just being be involved in their journey and helping someone else succeed, like that's a really great feeling to have and experience. I think I am doing these things for the same reason, where I really get excited when someone gets some guidance or I can be helpful or useful in some way or else. But I really like your idea.
In fact, as you grow up in your career, and I am surrounded by physicians and all, even as a physician, what motivates a lot of very successful physicians is when patients come back and say, wow, thank you, to my wife and others. Thank you, Dr. Kera. She's a BMT professor at Mayo. So, when they come back and they feel you saved their life or you gave them a new lease of life, that motivates a lot of physicians. So in the end, that intrinsic motivation helps us all keep going.
No, definitely true. And having this altruistic ideas in mind. Like at the end, money is just a side factor. Everyone makes it in some way or the other, but I think making money by helping someone else would be the best way to make it, as far as I look at it. But it is wonderful. Now I wanted
No,
to.
you're right. You're right. Money is important. See, no one can survive, without the basics, the food and all that. Money is basic. We all need it. But there are things beyond money.
Definitely, there are things beyond it. Now I also want to ask you this, that there is this idea that getting experience into university programs is the best way to get into the eyes of the program directors or people who are working there. And like, how do you think can we help more students achieve that goal? Like, outpatient clinics, definitely, if you have no clinical experience, that is a big opportunity for them. But now, for people to actually match into programs and to be there in the heart of things where they are happening, like, how do you see that challenge being overcome?
Yes, so again, a very good question, and I appreciate the opportunity through your platform to clarify some of these doubts. So first, if you can do electives as a student, you absolutely should. Why? Because electives in an inpatient facility in a hospital, university, or residency hospital gives you a lot more freedom. You will actually be treated as similar to an American medical student, and you can do a lot of hands-on patient interaction, EMR access, and all that if you are a student, medical student, right? So do it. But there are a lot of students who graduate and then start their USMLE journey, and that is where the challenge begins. If you have graduated, a lot of hospitals have limitations in what you can do. Now, we've actually seen that the residency hospitals can mostly give you shadowing opportunities. So, I live in Arizona near Mayo Clinic, so I see a lot of IMGs paying 3,000, 4,000 for shadowing, right? So yes, I would say if that is the case, maybe 1 month in a Cleveland clinic, in a Mayo clinic, from a shadowing perspective is okay. But what happens is it becomes expensive, and two, then you don't get the hands-on. So it's a mix that you should strive for. If you're a graduate student, 1 or 2 months in this capability, if you have the finances, because university and inpatient rotations tend to be very, very expensive because they have their overheads, right? So you have to take care of that. That's why we started a lot of rotations in Arizona, because it's a cheaper state with much cheaper inpatient rotation. So one is you got to figure out, can you get patient interaction hands-on in the inpatient setting? If not, then the mix of inpatient, outpatient is always a good idea. I'm not saying only outpatient, but a mix is always a good idea. The other thing you have to remember is, even these hospitals, the university hospitals, have figured out that IMGs will come. So there are hundreds of IMGs, even at Mayo, Cleveland Clinic, and Harvard, and all doing these rotations. Do all 100 match there? No, they don't. So you got to have a broader umbrella. Networking is very important, and networking can be at these programs, but also in other programs, in community programs, even through a clinic rotation, you can do it. You can use LinkedIn, you can use other channels to network with the stakeholders, chief residents, and all. But I think a mix of inpatient and outpatient generally works well for IMGs who have graduated and who may have financial issues. But I will say this again, if you are still a student, do everything you can and try to get inpatient rotations.
That is definitely a fair way of looking at things, that you kind of get a hands-on and these experience both inpatient and outpatient. But now I really wanted to understand that how can Sarthi as an organization, like, do you see yourself making connections with these universities where you can create a program or an umbrella where, you can get more people into places where actually they are the ones who are the decision makers of for the organizations or the residency program.
So yes, and we have to, again, in the spirit of transparency, there is a delicate balance that we have to maintain, right? We cannot and we don't want to influence their decisions, the residency program decisions, but you're right. So what we have done and we are starting to do, and we can, students can look on our website, we do have rotations directly with the program directors. That's one. We do have rotations in top AMG programs like Stony Brook in New York and others. We have started some of these rotations in residency programs all over the US, including, like I keep saying, Arizona is the latest that we've started. Texas, we have in some of these hospitals and programs. So we have started. Students can look up our website, but then these are not relatively cheap. They will be expensive, maybe $2,000 plus. So if you can afford it, absolutely go for it. If not, then we have other options also.
That is a fair idea. So you are
there are always, again, we are an organization, but if you combine some services, so say rotations or research or match and all, then probably we can negotiate with these hospitals to get cheaper rotations. So for example, right now I'm working with the Caribbean school, and they are sending students, about 35 students. So then we are negotiating with that residency hospital to give cheaper rotations because they are sending 35 students in the month of May, in across various hospital chains of that big hospital. So obviously some of these things can reduce the cost.
So now I wanted to ask you about this. As you went into the Caribbean, I did not completely understand this 35 students, like how does it work? Because Caribbean medical schools have affiliations with these hospitals where they do the rotations, and I think they are all into, most of the residency programs only. So how are you working with them?
Yes, so well, these are on contract basis. So just because Caribbean programs have an affiliation with one hospital this year does not mean they have it in next year, right? So we were approached by a couple of Caribbean programs who at this point have no contract with the hospital. So what we are doing is we are working with the residency hospitals, and we are saying, look, we will guarantee these students or the number of students, because the hospital also can reduce the cost only when they see a volume, right? So we go to the Caribbean and say, okay, you have a graduating class or you want PG3, 35, 40 students. We will take and we will place these students in these 2 or 3 hospitals, and we then connect the hospitals with the Caribbeans. We have the contract, but then yes, the students get to experience inpatient setting in those hospitals, and the hospital get the students, and then they reduce the price. So that's how it typically works. So the Caribbean or any school that can, even if it's not a school, if it is a students themselves. So if say I get 30 students and who say, I want a bulk discount because we are 30 of us, we are committing say 3 months of USCE, then yes, these hospitals, these physicians, they definitely can reduce the price.
Okay, that is an interesting thing to know. Now, coming back to this, as you've been in touch with a lot of hospitals and everything, I also have this question that do you plan on expanding to other services of healthcare as well? Like, you are only dealing with doctors right now. How about nurses? Like, there is a big demand and supply gap. Like, do you think about that?
Yeah, so first, within the IMG community, I think there is a lot of things that we can help. So We started last year actually in the fellowship kind of, a lot of our own students look for help with fellowship. So from residency to fellowship, that we've started. The other thing which you may have realized, a lot of these states now have provisional licensing. They do take IMGs provisionally. So we are working with Arizona, so the medical board and facilities here. Arizona because I live here and I have connections, but Arizona, Florida, Tennessee, we are working to see how we can, like you said, there's a lot of demand, lot of need. So how some of these IMGs can get provisional licenses, that's one thing. Nursing is another area that seems to be a lot of demand, and I'm working with some of the partners on nursing. And then in healthcare, as IMGs graduate, they become physicians, attending physicians. There is a lot of need of education in how to manage this entire, I would say, the US system of finances, of loans, and the financial aspect of the IMGs is still very confusing to a lot of my former students. They don't understand how the system here works. So there are affiliated services that we are trying to look at.
Okay, that is interesting that you are trying to see into different areas, and I think that is how any organization would grow. And I'm really, you are an inspiration that you still want to try do different things, and you're still at it, and you're still innovating.
One of the things, and I've been working on this in my free time, whatever little I get. There are a lot of students now who want to come here for med school. So right after their grade 12, right? They want to come for med school. So I'm trying to see how we can help those, although education here can be very expensive, right? But those are also some of the things we are trying to look at and see if we can help.
Yeah, I think also one more thing I've noticed since I matched here at in New York, there are a lot of Caribbean graduates here, and I did not know that these many Indian students are going to Caribbean to get their medical school, and then they end up coming here. Like, it was a huge number which I was fascinated by. That I did not know that so many people from all over India are going to Caribbean to get their medical degrees.
You're right. So a lot of students from India used to go to Ukraine. Now, in Russia, they go to Philippines, used to go to China. Caribbean, they go to Caribbean. Caribbean also caters to a lot of Indian origin students in the US. So parents are US citizens, they grow up here, and for some reason they couldn't get medical school in the US, so they go to Caribbean. So a lot of Canadians go to Caribbean also.
What other things are you looking for? Like, where do you see Sarthi expanding in the next 5-10 years?
So I think Sarthi, whatever we end up doing, I want to keep it focused on the students. I want to keep our focus on servicing the student. That students have made Sarthi what it is, right? So I never want to lose focus that let me try this new thing, and we will be successful. I want to keep my students at the center of what Sarthi does. Now this could change. Like I said, it could be fellowship, it could be something else, it could be helping them from a financial perspective, it could be AI driven, could be nursing, but the students have to be at the focus of Sarthi. That I think is critical, and then as things change, we'll see.
And now one more question. What have you learned by establishing, like, you've transitioned from a teacher or person in education to running a business? Like, what is your biggest learning, and what can we learn from you?
The learning obviously is at various levels, right? So one is I've learned from the students perseverance. Don't give up. A lot of students have a challenges, but they end up matching. So not giving up in front of a challenge, I think perseverance is one thing I've learned. Second, I have learned better on how to look at things from the other person's perspectives, and which I tell my students. You always have to see what a program director is looking for. You always have to put yourself in the shoes of a program director, right? So I try to put myself in the shoes of a student. So understanding what the other person wants, I think, is key. And I've always tried to do that, but I'm always learning. So that's the other thing. I always have realized that you get outdated very soon. There's no thing that is static. So you have to keep learning things. And then there are challenges that come up within an organization. We are all human, right? So those challenges, how do you build a team? How do you understand what they need, but what your customers need? So it's a lot of things that I've learned. Sometimes I have to say no. Ability to say no is also a big thing I've learned. I think in the end, balancing work and life is hard, but I'm trying to do that. A lot of things. Life always teaches you something new every day. I've just been open to that.
And what do you think is the biggest challenge that Sarthi as an organization faces right now, that you are working on?
Yeah, so like I said, the biggest challenge for not only Sarthi but for any organization is always to be student focused. Understand that we exist only for the students, and that's where sometimes my team fails, I fail, and so making sure we have that tunnel vision of student focus, number one. Number two, keeping up to date with the new trends, new technology. Always the students change, their expectations change. All of that is Sarthi's challenge. We always, an organization does not stay static. They always have to keep evolving. And that's what I try to do.
That's really a nice way of looking at things, and it gives a perspective that if you focus on something, everything else will fall into place. I think that's the right way to do it. And now, one more question before I let you go. So this is the question which is personal, that what advice do you have for me? You've been in this field for 25 years. What would you have to say to me, and what can I do to improve?
I think you are, Aditya, by the way, a role model for a lot of students. You're always up to a challenge. You're always smiling. I know you must have been in pressure, but you have a lot of confidence. So my advice to you or to others, right? Always, the first thing is, you always have to have the confidence. No one else can give you the confidence. Always have the confidence. So things like, I don't have the American accent, I don't have this or that, doesn't matter. I mean, I don't have an American accent, that's fine. So confidence is the key, right? Second, learn that as life changes, your priorities will change, right? So learn to balance. In maybe 2 years or 3 years, someone is preparing for USMLE, then you shift into residency, then other aspects of life. So balancing as life happens is another thing. But finally, I would say, be always ambitiously dissatisfied with the status quo. So yes, you are a resident, you'll maybe go and do, I don't know, vascular neurology, some fellowship, and you may think, I've achieved all of this, now I can sit back. But no, there are always people who need help. There are always things you can learn. So having that, ambitiously dissatisfied with where you are, I think that is something I always recommend that every student does. It doesn't mean that you are so dissatisfied that you say, okay, neurology is the worst and I want to do, I don't know, OBGYN. I'm not saying that. I'm saying once you achieve something, appreciate it, but then look for the next thing where you can add value. So that's what I say, ambitiously dissatisfied with the status quo.
Yeah, definitely. I think everywhere you reach is a stepping stone into the next step where you can go, and it opens new doors. And that is how I will keep looking at it. And thank you so much. It has been a really nice conversation with you. And there were a lot of myths and the questions that people needed the answer to. So I'm sure they got their answers. And I mean, this journey is like this. It is expensive. You are spending some money at this point, but I'm sure it is recovered way faster in the longer picture.
Well, I mean, maybe in one of those days, next time we can talk about the recovery part and, life in US. So
Definitely.
I'm happy to talk about it. But yes, as we wrap up, thank you very much. I appreciate your time, and to all your audience, all the students, again, I cannot talk of anyone else, but if ever you have any issues with Sarthi, you want to reach out to us, you have not been satisfied, or you just want to know more about USMLE, just reach back directly to me. Aditya can, I already gave my email and all of that. So never hesitate. You are here to do good things, and, you deserve it. So good luck to all your audience.
Yeah. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much for watching. We hope that video provided valuable insights for your journey. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Instagram and Twitter. And check out our website for details on how we can guide you to a successful match.